Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 58th and best episode of the Hashcast. And as always, I have a guest way cooler and way more interesting than myself. And today I have a very good friend who I've met for the first time this E3, Andrew Alliance. How are you, man?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me, and I'm so excited, man.
I am so excited you got to be there because we've known each other for a while. I've been on your show, and it's been years. It feels like years ago, so it's overdue to have you on my end here. But like I said, we just met at E3, and it was great to finally see you and I kind of knew what you looked like, but put a face to the voice is always better in person.
Right.
But for people who might not know directly who you are, Andrew, can you give us a quick introduction on who are you and what is it that you do?
Sure. I'm a content creator. Been creating content since 2009. My podcast is called The Show Radio. We just crossed over 500 episodes, maybe pre-E3, and plus or minus a couple of episodes if we tag them. But yeah, just a content creator, podcaster, streamer, but mostly hardcore podcaster, I would say.
Yeah, I think I introduced you to someone this E3 as the best podcast in the world.
Yeah, why did you do that?
Because
oh my God, the pressure.
Yeah, you just casually dropped like we're over 500 episodes, which is one a week, I assume, or like 2 a week. How many do you do?
So you mean like in total, if I were to count?
Yeah, well, like you have 500 episodes. Like, do you want one a week, or do you do 2 a week, or 3 a week?
No, I mean, it's usually one a week, and sometimes depending on the content that drops that week, we may drop an extra episode, but I'll probably solo that.
Yeah.
And if I do some interviews, then I'll probably number them if they're at least over 20 minutes or 30 minutes or stuff like that. So it's usually one a week. It's been really crazy since E3, so we've kind of probably missed 1 or 2 weeks since then, but the interviews that we've done since E3, we've been putting in the feed, dropping those in. So it's usually 1 a week.
Yeah, well, again, like you've been doing this since 2009, which was a completely different internet back then than it was right now. And you've been there at the forefront of content creation and podcasting, because even some of the bigger outlets that I know have not been around for 10 years at this point. So that's 10 years of experience. So that's why I gave you title best podcast in the world right there, right on the spot.
Appreciate it.
Because you're also very pleasant to listen to, and you're such a great conversationalist that I was like, I need to get Andrew on my show. So if you're not familiar with this work, but we're gonna shill for you later at the end of the episode. But so you've been doing this for 10 years, Andrew. What got you into podcasting, and why specifically in the gaming sphere?
Well, I've been gaming since '87, so I've always had a passion. I guess it was born out of the Nintendo era for me. I think Nintendo came out in '85. I picked up the Nintendo in '87, so I've been excited ever since to talk about the games and that industry. But for podcasting specifically, for me, has been I believe that I was better than the individuals who are out. Yeah. And part of that is the fuel, not so much today, but that's what it was the first couple of years to create content around the subjects that I love as it related to the game industry, and even have guests on. And there's phases to that, but that's really what fueled in the beginning. Yeah.
Do you still remember your how you got your Nintendo? Because for me, that's like a very specific birthday morning that I opened that package for the Nintendo.
Yeah,
I guess we're around the same age.
Yeah. So for me, it was like mom was like, okay, if you want this Nintendo, you have to clean the house for a week. Yeah. Okay, and if you're consistent for that week, then we'll consider having that conversation later on that week. I'm like, I could do a strong week. I mean, that's not hard, right?
No. It's a pretty good deal, actually. Just a week worth of labor for a Nintendo when you're like 6-7 years old.
I still have it.
Yeah.
I still have it, it's just one of those things. But I love the industry, man, and I'm sure we'll dig into that a little bit more.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I still remember my my Nintendo story, because I didn't want a Nintendo. I wanted a Game Boy, because that was like the best thing in the world back then. And then my mom was like, "No, you're not getting a Game Boy because it's too expensive." And we didn't have a lot when I grew up. So when my birthday came, it was a big box, and I was like, okay, well, it's obviously not a Game Boy. And then I opened it, and it was a Nintendo, because then my mom was like, okay, now the whole family can play with it.
Nice.
So she struggled for that one, but I specifically remember like where I was opening that package. starting off a career like 30 years later that I didn't know I was going to have in video games industry. So it's those, yeah, that's what anchors us into the hobby, I suppose. But that's what I always find interesting myself is, for some people, gaming is a hobby, right? It's like, okay, this is fun. Hobbies come in and out of your life. You probably like to read or watch movies, but that's not the way you went for content creation. So what was that moment where you're like, okay, gaming is such a special thing? You said you love the industry, but do you remember like that moment where you're like, okay, this goes to another level of interest where I want to actually put myself out there around this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was sitting, actually I was on the floor on the carpet on August 2nd, 2009, which is my wife's birthday. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, you know what? I can create content and share my love for gaming for the individuals who are willing to listen. So we started using a platform called Blog Talk Radio, which is a turnkey solution for, audio content and stuff like that. So we used that for the first couple of years. And the phases, as I mentioned earlier, was, okay, I'm going to start the conversation by myself, then 10 to 20 episodes in, get some guests, 30 to 50 your heroes, and then from there you kind of find your voice. I think for me, I didn't find my voice until probably episode 90, somewhere around there, where I realized that I have a distinct voice against my colleagues, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think the confidence over the years, you get, from maybe episode 100, 200, 300, you kind of get your confidence, you kind of get your cadence, as you will, for that. So I think, so around the first 100 episodes, I think is when I started really understand that I wanted to share my journey with individuals who are willing to listen. And now it's more so I want to share that journey for individuals who would consider coming to my funeral, kind of weird angle. Yeah. So the content now for me is more transcending the stuff that we talk about. Yeah, we share information about tech, gaming, and entertainment. That's great, but the moment that we capture, that we document, whether that's audio and video, that's where I'm focused now, to leave that on the table for individuals who are willing to consider checking us out. So. Yeah.
That's super cool. I'm glad that I'm only 30 episodes out before I'm getting slightly good at this, because we're episode 58 here, right here. But that is such a wealth of experience that you have. Who was your first guest when you felt comfortable enough getting guests on the show?
Wow,
if you
don't remember. I don't remember. I had some dope. And I don't want to call names, man. I just feel so bad calling names. But definitely my heroes were some of the ones in the beginning. I'll say that. Yeah. Some of the individuals who've been recording for a long time, whether 10 years. I mean, we can name some individuals I'm close to, Godfreys,
They're not
Godfrey, Paris. Those guys. I love those guys. They're brothers. They're family to me. And even going back to JVB from Talking About Games, when he was doing podcasting. I don't know if he's still doing that, but I know he does photography stuff. But there's quite a bit, and of course the Andrea Renee's that we see that I've had on Blog Talk Radio a long time ago, Hip Hop Gamers, so all those individuals, those different personality types, if you will, that I've looked up to, because they are my elders. They are my elders, right? And
Andrea's even still, be so mad that you called her your elder.
Well, I mean, in a sense of, like you mentioned, the wealth of experience they had compared, they're light years ahead of me, right? But in terms of what I believe I bring to the table, it's with all the stuff that's happened post E3 is reassuring that my gift and talents surround the human element, right? And a lot of individuals have said that I'm pretty good at that, and I'm beginning to embrace that more as it relates to the conversations and the interviews and the different things that I'm currently doing. But yeah, I think those things, my heroes, and I look up to them, and somewhat from afar, because I don't get to speak to them as well, or may not have that direct contact or personal relationship with them. But but they've influenced me a lot.
Yeah, and I remember people speaking highly of you when I started doing this, that they were like, "Oh, you gotta get Andrew on the show," but then you beat me to the punch, and I came on here first. But what I really like is like you said, the human element, because for me it's sort of the same, because you can only talk about video games so much, right? It's the people that make this industry go around, and I think there's often the better conversation there than talking about how good or not good the latest AAAs or whatever. So I'm always interested in talking to people who have that same vision. So here we are.
Absolutely.
How weird was that to invite someone on your show for the first time that like you've looked up to, and then they say yes to being on your episode? Do you remember that moment?
It's super weird, yeah, because I used to run in the hallway back and forth to kind of get my energy up before having those conversations. So, I mean, I don't do that anymore, but I still get nervous. I still get nervous no matter what the interview is, the conversation, even this, to some degree. I'm like, oh, okay, so which vibe am I going to be in? What mindset? Am I going to be stern? Am I going to be super aggressive? Depending on the conversation and the flow, you have to kind of prepare for that on how you want to address it. And even a previous conversation I just had with another individual on their podcast, I was really stern, really aggressive, overconfident, because I believe that the topics they were talking about at that time deserve that kind of weight, right? Versus, so it depends, So, but yeah, I was running back and forth in the hallway, doing push-ups and stuff like that, and yeah, it was crazy, man.
Yeah, it's funny. Are you used to it by now? Because you've had quite a lineup so far.
No, I'm used to the engagement within the conversation, like we're talking right now. Used to the process of putting the podcast together, right? Bullet points in your mind, and how you want to flow. Let the person talk more than you do, that kind of thing. So I'm used to that. But no, I don't think you ever get used to it like that. No.
Yeah. Who was the biggest? Who made you like the most nervous when you got that yes?
Let me see. Andrea Renee was nervous. Yeah. That's nerve-wracking, man. Like she's so dope. Yeah. She's so dope. But I think in some degree they all did, because I still feel sometimes that I am the underdog with some of my peers, right? Yeah. And I think that is a driver for me to push forward and do more with less, if that makes sense, and whether that's equipment or resources and stuff like that. And they may not see it that way, and I think that's a mind game for me as I wrestle with, what do I do? How do I refine? How do I become better? What books should I read, and all that stuff, while pouring out information that I've learned, right? So there has to be, it's not really a balance, but I know for a fact that I want to pour out more of my experiences, and hopefully someone will benefit from that. But yeah, it's I'm not fully there yet in terms like, okay, I'm comfortable with everything. It's still a process. Yeah,
it's funny because when I hear talking, listen to your show, you're such a pro. Like everything you do, it sounds amazing, and it's well cut, it's well edited, and you as a person, you're like super confident. Like like this is my place, I belong here. And it's funny to hear that people are still like, oh, they always have that tingle in the back of their mind, like that insecurity comes gnawing. But just from me to you, like, man, I love what you do, and I'm learning. When I was on your show, I was like taking notes.
No, I appreciate that, man.
Because this dude has everything figured out. I'm still kind of digging into like your podcast.
Yeah,
experience.
let's do it.
It's just so interesting to me. Who is a guest that you hadn't had the opportunity yet to be on your show, but like is kind of I don't say dream come true, because like people usually have bigger dreams than having a guest on the show, but like, what would be the one that you've been chasing now?
I haven't chased it. Well, I've reached out one time. Yeah. There's a comedian called Andrew Schultz from the Brilliant Idiots podcast, the Brilliant Idiots podcast. So I love comedy and punchlines. I love hot takes, but explaining the hot takes. So I spend more time listening to non-gaming stuff versus actual gaming stuff, depending on the person and the relationship and stuff like that. So if they tell me to check in with a particular episode, I'll be like, okay, I'll check that. But if you don't tell me to check in, I don't, because I believe that pours into what I do, and I don't want that. So Andrew Schultz, maybe Charlemagne from The Breakfast Club, Gary Vaynerchuk, guys like that. John Maxwell would be great, as a guest, a great author and stuff like that. So individuals that have impacted me on a leadership level. And we know that if you've listened, I'll say that, I'll preface it with that. Gary Vee is super influential in the way he does his content, as well as the advice he gives. Although it's simple advice, it's still you have to believe what he's saying to implement that for yourself. So those are some of the names I would throw out there right now.
That'll be cool. I hope that works out. If they're listening, they're probably not. Maybe they'll be like, oh yeah, of course I'm going to be on Andrew's show. So you're, like, I think you're pretty well known. At least people know you.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
Really?
Like, if I just look at your guest list, those are all people that know you, right? And those people know a lot of other people. So I think, like, your name is definitely out there. But the whole gig kind of comes with a lot of cool other stuff, right? Like, you've been to E3, you've been to a couple other things. How did you manage to do that? Because this is not something you do for a living, or are you, like, making a living off of this at this point?
Partly with some of the sponsorship things like that, but the thing with this experience for me is a documentation, right? It's the journey, right? And I think that the E3 stuff. So let me dig into that. First E3 was solo. Maybe second, third, or fourth was assistance from guys like Hip Hop Gamer, would show me the ropes and stuff like that. And the last couple, the last two have been solo again. The show got fully approved without any additional assistance, and then I was able to bring Daniela on this year, and that was her first media badge, which was exciting for me to bring someone to be able to have that experience. So I think that the root and the fire is really the passion and the love that I have for the industry, and as you mentioned, the experience that you gain to deal with so many different individuals, whether that's PR companies and influencers and quote unquote content creators and stuff like that. I always wanted to be in that realm and learn, and it's a challenge for me at times, because part of my story is I struggled with English growing up, because I was going to Haiti to school, and I would come back in the States for a vacation. So we were doing that for a little bit, right? And I had to watch like sitcoms and those type of shows to kind of understand how human beings spoke English, even though they were acting. That really helped me out to understand. And I think that when individuals listen to the show and they believe that there's a high level of coherency there, to me, that's a constant reminder how far I've come from people not really understanding me when I spoke English, and accents and things like that. So it's really about a strong love and passion for the journey. And as you said, opportunities have come with the E3s and the different events like that, but at the core of it is the real friendships that you build, as long term. That is the amazing things, and there's a couple things I know we're gonna wrap. There's a wrap session for us later on that I really want to dig into what's been happening, but it's the love and the humans that I really want to dig into. That's a driver for me, and also believing that I'm better, which people don't like to hear me say that. I don't know why. You have to believe that you're better. Right?
I don't think anyone. Well.
Right, you believe that you're better, right?
Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it. You don't set out to be like number 5, right? You try to be as good as you can be, especially.
Right.
But there's something, another layer I want to peel off there later on. But maybe we should just get into that right away, because, for me, my path into content creation has been maybe easier, because I am the stereotypical white man gaming, middle-aged man. So some doors might have been open for me easier than you've had trouble with.
Oh, we're going there?
Oh yeah,
we're going
let's
there?
go there.
Oh,
Yeah.
snap.
Yeah.
We're going there?
Well,
okay.
it's because you said something like people struggling with your, I'm not sure how long that went on. Like my second language is also English, but I always feel like I've had it relatively easy. But now when I follow a couple of content creators like yourself, like Khalif, Paris, and there's a lot to do about putting those voices that don't always get the spotlight in the spotlight. And I see a lot of building around that. I saw what Andrew from Ubisoft did
right.
with a special mixer for there. And I find that super... not fascinating because it's not a show, but like I love seeing that movement happen now that those voices get lifted up a little bit more. How do you feel connected to that? Like how do you fit into there? Or is it something you're just focused on, this is my show, this is what I'm gonna do, or are you part of that as well?
Okay, so for a while I disconnected myself from the group things.
Yeah.
Because I believe that my content should shine based on how well it was presented or produced, or et cetera, et cetera. But after a while, when you believe based on life experiences as a minority, or whatever that group is for you that is considered a minority, that you have to work or push twice as hard just to get to the first floor.
Yeah.
Right. So now, what does that mean? So if I may.
Yeah, go ahead. That's why I brought it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I do a show that's just about beer, okay, it may not fly as well, and I bring in my other, cool cats that happen to be black or whatever. It may not fly as well, right? But if another group or demographic does the same show, it may take off, right? And then you wonder if is it the content? Is it the demographic? So you start getting really frustrated when you believe that day in and day out, whatever that is for you, whether that's every week or every other week or whatever, that you're bringing in the best that you can bring, right? So you're taking the information, you're consuming that, and you're bringing that out to the individuals. And then people still find a reason to not appreciate the content that you bring out, right? So with all that I've just said, I try to stay away from that, right? Because I believe that my content should shine no matter what, right? And I think if it's good, then it's good. It's not good because I happen to be black. It's not good because I happen to speak well. It's not good. You know what I mean? Those. Okay, so speaking well to someone who is an African American is not a compliment. Now, to me, it is based on what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Because I struggle with that. But any other person who was born here, which I was born here, I just didn't school here as much, right? That's not a compliment, right? So when you see those kind of things happen, like, well, what do I need to do to break, quote unquote, the ceiling, right? I don't know. Yeah. But if and I don't want to transition too quickly into the E3 stuff, which I'm sure we can talk about, but it's disappointing at times watching that, but I can't say that they're not working hard too, right? So I think it's unfair to a degree and say, hey, they're doing this show, it's blowing up, and I believe that the context of what I say or do with the guests that I have on is way better than that, but I don't know who they know. I don't know what keys are being turned for them, and I can't be so quickly judgmental in that regard. But yet we have those moments where we know for a fact that certain doors open, as you mentioned, faster for the demographics and stuff like that. So I struggle with it, not to be, and I'm rebellious against groups of a lot of things. And I'll speak in general terms, even recently, where I believe that I'm in a group, not really in the group, but I know the leader of the group. So I'll say that, right? Yeah. And there was a situation that took place where I believe that because I spoke my quote-unquote truth, which offended a lot of individuals, some members of that group wanted me to be removed from the group because of how I spoke about the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So now, if you're going to attempt to stifle my voice, then you really don't. If you and you've listened to enough episodes with me, you kind of know that I'm pretty rebellious.
Yeah.
If you listen close enough, right? But I think that I have to be really careful and sensitive as I walk those lines, because I don't want to misjudge a situation where I said, okay, hey, this dude got this opportunity, and then it ends up messing up my opportunities because I didn't take the time, as we talked about, to engage in the human element, because that has opened more doors for me than anything else, right? And got me out of trouble with white cops than anything else, right? So when I hear the stories and we see the horror stories and stuff like that online as it relates to cops, I'm like, dude, some white cops have bailed me out a lot of times, right? Yeah. And it's kind of like weird. They're like, well, how does that happen for you? It doesn't happen. I don't know. I don't know. So I can't relate to those situations. But I know that there are those lines, as you mentioned, that are there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like this something that I find interesting, because we're talking and I feel like, okay, we kind of have the same experiences, because we started like non-English speaker breaking into industry. Then I was like, no, we probably did not have the exact same experiences. So that's why I kind of want to brought up when you mentioned the language that you went through, and just opportunities in general. But
I want to add one bit to that.
Sure.
I just before we move on, in the beginning, as I was learning the different things with the industry, dude, I'm immature, bro. Like, really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't understand the nuances of the things that happen with the industry. I didn't understand like how close knit the PR people are. There's a lot of things I didn't understand, how I could potentially blacklist myself from one company and maybe 5 because I said something crazy. You know what I mean? Like just little things like that I wasn't aware of, right?
Yeah.
So I spent like 2016 into 2017, I was trying to repair a lot of relationships that I messed up because of my immaturity. Yeah. Right? And I'm trying to be better. Yeah. I'm trying to be better.
Yeah. I think when I hear you talk, like, that does not speak immaturity to me. So you must have grown. Like, I didn't know you in 2016, but like when I hear you speak and the thoughts that you have, like, okay, this dude has figured out by now, but a lot of growth can happen in 3 years, obviously. No, I find that interesting, and I'm like I said, I look up to your content and you as a person and how well you've done for yourself.
I appreciate it,
acknowledging that it's not probably always been easy, and it's something I also want to talk about, because what we're doing, we're super close on the content, like everything that happens in the industry, and especially when you're looking for the human element, there's a lot happening at the time, so we get involved in a lot of the issues in the gaming industry. Are there still things that you are deliberately either like jumping on or stepping away from when industry stuff happens?
Like drama?
Yeah, drama, but like it can be either developer drama or like community drama, like that kind of stuff. Like, are there topics that you are extra interested in and topics that you absolutely don't want to touch because that's just too much trouble?
Okay, so my thing now with let's start with the good stuff. I have a lot of joy right now, because of all the love that I'm getting from the places I didn't think I'd get that love from. Yeah, you know, like for example, YouTube comments. Yeah, from what I've heard, YouTube comments is like the trash pit of pits. Yeah. Okay, and the love that I've received post E3 have been overwhelmingly positive. Right. So now I'm trying to manage that as I can. So there's that. So I'm trying to guard my joy and the individuals who are appreciating the content. The drama, I really try to stay away from like the plague, because I can't. And here's the thought process behind that. Kind of going back on the demographics conversation, I can't recover like some individuals can recover. Yeah. Yeah. I can't afford it. I can't afford it. I can't go in the bathroom and do something crazy with a camera or whatever the case might be and recover. No. Okay? I can't say crazy, derogatory things on a particular group or about a particular person and recover quickly. I know that. Yeah. So I don't have a pass like that. Yeah. Okay? So because I don't have the pass like that, I have to be almost perfect. Okay? And even when I am almost perfect, there's still individuals who will find the loose ends that I try to tie in the midst of explaining, ideating, talking out loud, conversations and trying to show that there's a lot to do here. Okay, and it's difficult, but and the fact that but we can make it work. We can make it work. So I try to stay away from the dramas. I don't retweet drama, even if the drama can potentially be in a tweet thread that pertains to me. I try to stay away from putting a heart on that or retweeting that, because I don't need that.
No.
I don't need that. So things like that I'm very careful about. But it's just, to me, the mindset is everything is love, man. Everything. I love you. If you love me, I love you. If listen, we're gonna break bread, eat some fries, from whatever. If I can't find you in LA or whatever the case might be, and then we walk past each other, and I know that there's tension, I have to fix that, right? Because it could be my fault, right? So I think those things, and I think that online interaction is very interesting. We can say all the things that we want to say about somebody, but when we see them face to face, that's another conversation, right? So if I'm mean to you on social, and then I meet you in person, and you're coming up to me trying to give me a hug, I'd be like, fam, that's not the energy you were giving off like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So those things I try to stay away from, dude. Everything is love right now, bro.
Oh, that's great to hear. How do you train yourself though? Because like I once said, you're a bit of a rebel when it comes to certain things. Right. Like I had to unlearn that whole drama part to not jump into the fight, to not do that. And I don't want to linger on that too much, because you said like everything is love right now. But this is more.
We can talk about it.
But
we can talk about
I'm more
it.
interested, like how do you train yourself to be so internet savvy? Especially, they said you don't have a pass. Like there must be a lot of thought and self, not censoring but curating, self-curating into that. Like how do you train that, or do you have training in that, or how does that work?
Mistakes? I mean, how far do we want to go? Let me see. Well, church helps, I'm a believer. I'm a Christian, so that helps. So I typically say for the individuals that listen to conversations is everything you love about me is what God has done. Everything you don't like about me is things I'm working out. Okay. So don't blame the crazy on God. Blame that on me. Okay. So church helps. There's training there. Men's groups, life groups at church and stuff like that. Scripture reading. Those things help. Watching good content, good people. That helps, right? Good association helps. You can take your hands off the keys and walk away. You can do that. Right? Some people just don't want to do that. You can go read a good book. John Maxwell, one of my favorite guys to read, he has a whole bunch of books. Right? Whether you're reading Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, or any book that allows you to step away from the madness and learn something. Right? I think those things really help. And walking away, spend time with, okay, so the energy that you're about to put in to write on the keys, draft it, read it, and maybe delete it. Don't let it go out. You know what I mean? And I think those moments, and even mistakes in the past, in the last, I would say 2017, there was some tension that I created. 2016, there was a situation that I created, and I tried to recover from those situations to be better. But the thing is, as I'm thinking about it, is that the internet does not allow you to grow.
No.
Okay? It doesn't. So if you have a load of content, a pool of content that's more positive, stay on that train. Because when someone sees you for the first time, whether it's post E3 or a content that you posted 6 months ago, if that's their first introduction that they have of you, and if it's negative, it's hard to come back from that. Right? So then how much do you want? And some people don't care. Bottom line, so let's just go crazy the other way. Some people just don't care about how they're perceived. Right? There is that. I care to a degree, but I'm not going to, be inauthentic in what I say and what I believe. You going back to the I'm better thing that we were talking about earlier. I'm not going to go away from that because I really believe that, and that offends people. That offends people. So you navigate it that way, and you watch the individuals who navigate it well. You take some lessons from them, and you should have an accountability partner. I have one. Right? That's I'm not gonna blow up their spot or anything like that, but you must have somebody who is going to continually walk you off the ledge and have your mind right, so you don't do any dumb things on the internet.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of wisdom there for up and coming content creators, and it's something I talked about with someone a while ago. Is I think you and I probably grew up on a wealth of negativity when it came to content creation. Like we kind of put those people up on a pedestal because that was fun back then, like the edginess and the darkness. And I think a new generation of content creators is getting up now who are either missing the bit that it was, because it was a bit or a thing, and they are latching on to that negativity only. So we get a lot of angry content right now, and it does well. Like it seems to always do well. So it's going to be hard to fix, I guess, when it's so easily monetizable, the outrage and the edginess. But that's why I find it interesting when I hear you say, like, I'm better than that. Is where does that confidence from you come from? Like I kind of get to know you, like, as we speak, even better. But where do you draw that from?
I think it was born out of pain, I would say, right? Most of the gifts and talents that we have forged over the years was through trauma and pain, right? And I think that when a whole bunch of individuals who don't know you see, your gifts and talents, right? After a while, you just can't deny them.
Yeah.
Right? So is it bad that they're saying it, or is it bad that I'm saying it? I don't think it should be, I shouldn't have to choose.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to choose.
Yeah.
So, and what I'm finding, though, is when I really just go all in with what I'm thinking in the moment, people just, like, it's a breath of fresh air, because no one is that brutally honest. And I think you have to be. You have to be that brutally honest, because that's where the authenticity from you, is generated from, if you will, right? Because when they feel that, individuals, like, even, so I'll share a conversation with you that I had with someone at the table at E3. Yeah. So we're having a conversation, just met this person, right? And I'm like, I know what my gift is. And this is what I'm telling them. I said, my gift is when individuals speak to me, they believe that they can tell me anything and it will stay with me. And I'm just a trustable guy. They believe that from the get-go, right? And I say, you believe that, and that I know you do, because that's my gift, right? I can talk to anybody and they'll trust me by the end of the conversation or the end of the night. That's just my gift, right? So now I have to protect that. Because we have the embargoes and all the things that happen in the industry, that I just can't go around saying a whole bunch of things that I know that could jeopardize the branding that we're building, and even relationships and stuff like that. So, but if everybody else is telling you what your gifts and talents are, and you've refined them over the years, because you practice, we're talking about 100+ episodes, 200, whatever, right? So you've practiced, you know what it is. Right? So why can't I tell you that I believe I'm dope? You got to. Who's going to tell you? Who's going to tell you? Sometimes you don't have somebody at home telling you that. Right? So why not encourage yourself and move forward? Like, I put out a video today. I believe it's dope. I thought the video that we put out for Cyberpunk was trash, but everybody's saying it's good. Right? So why not embrace that? Because sometimes, sadly enough, sometimes it's everybody else who barely knows you that's bringing you the encouragement. Right? So I can't have that?
I love that.
I got it.
I love hearing you talk about that, because for a lot of people I talk about deal with, like, imposter syndrome, right? And it feels like you have kicked the heck out of imposter syndrome and just took it for, like you say, when people say you're talented, like, why not trust them on that, right? But you, like, take that and, like, really display it, and I love that. You don't see that often, so that's probably why you said, like, people don't like when I say that. But I think it's definitely a quality to have that kind of it's not just trusting yourself, it's trusting what your peers say about you, right? And someone mentioned that on a panel I was listening to, and it might have even been I don't know who had said it. Maybe it was Kate Stark, a streamer. She was on the panel, and people were talking. She basically said this, like, "Do you trust the opinion of your friends?" Or maybe it was Dr. B actually from Take This. Then trust the opinion of your friends. If they say you're good at it, just own it. But you don't see it often that people own it like you do, and I think that's absolutely admirable. But like I said, it might get you in trouble for people who have not mastered that themselves, because it might be easy to misread. Yeah. But I think you're right. Like if people tell you you're talented, like and like you refine these skills and you show it. So I think it's super cool that you're just comfortable enough to say that. But when you talked about like YouTube comments, do you still have that one though? When you see that one thing like, oh, this video sucks, does it still get to you, or do you just deflect that completely at this point?
I think that every video and every piece of content that we put out is a learning process for the next big thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I make peace with it, if you will. Because our main thing this year for the E3 stuff was create and document more video. Whatever you do, if you can do video, and then go from there. Yeah. And I think that has catapulted the awareness of some of the content that I've been doing for a while now, right? So I think that the old videos, they're trash, they're garbage, right? But they were learning, they were the stepping stones to the next big thing, right? To immediately capture a moment of a reaction video of something that we just saw. Yeah. That was 2 minutes. I didn't think anything was going to come out of that. It's almost at 100K. That's ridiculous,
that is
right?
Nuts, man. 100.
Yeah. So it's like, what do you do? I think that you don't craft trying to do the viral thing. We didn't know that was going to pop off like that, but I realized there were a couple of things that were very critical in how that happened, right? It was surrounding outrage, right? So the company retweeted it, so that gave it a boost. The company that retweeted it had over 500,000 people following them, right? So there was that. I had my friends in a video, okay? The thing that they were talking about spoke directly to me and my heritage, right? I recorded the video minutes after we saw the presentation, right? So there were different things that took place, and of course stars aligning and things like that, a lunar eclipse or whatever the eclipse is, that's hard to get, and those things happen, and that's how we got that moment, right? But I think that every other moment where I decided, you know what, maybe I should just do audio, now it's like there is no other option. There's no other option, because if you record something now, you can look at it a year later, if you will, and say, you know what? Oh man, look what we were doing, dude. Look at your hair. You can have those moments, but you can't have them. No. You know, why do we love documentaries? We love them because they're stills in that time frame that we can revisit, right? Whoever the documentary is, Whitney Houston, Prince, you know, whoever. And I think that we should look at our content that way and not be so worried about the production of it, but interaction with the person that we're having. Don't look at your phone while you're having a conversation with somebody dope. Right? You know what I mean? Because you need to be in that moment. And I think things like that will impact individuals who can do nothing but show love. And I think that's what's happening. I'm engaged in the moment of the person that I'm having the conversation with. And I don't care about anything else unless I forgot to put my phone on airplane mode and I get a call which stops the video. That would be an issue. But outside of that, my moment at that time is to focus on the person speaking. Because they're the guest. So I have to give them 99.9 and maybe say one thing here and there, and that's the conversation. I think that we have to be mindful of those moments and capitalize on them.
Well, that's what I mean when I tell you that you're such a pro at this. I mean that, like, that's 100% genuine, because again, when I hear you speak, like man, you are so good at this.
Appreciate it, man.
So yeah, put that in your confidence bucket. That's probably already overflowing, but for real.
Thank you, man.
But you mentioned like timestamps a little bit in like documentary, because I think that's true. Every episode in itself is a time capsule. I want to take you forward and backwards a little bit. So I'll go forward first. Like, where do you think you're going to be in 5 years from now? Because you've grown so much in the last 9, but I feel like you just started this whole new venue, like doubling down on video, and now being able to go to an E3 on your own credentials, that kind of stuff. You strike me as a guy that is not sitting still and probably already has some outlines for how far you want to take this. Are you willing to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share as much as I can. So right now for me is documenting the journey long term through video, right? And being as lean and nimble as possible for field production so I can be ready to record anywhere. So one of the things that I've been speaking about the last couple of weeks as it relates to field production is you can really have a nice setup and not spend a lot of money. Yeah. So, for example, I'll take you through the example. We budgeted 2 mics, tripod, an audio adapter, your phone, to about $209 to create any content anywhere on the field, right? $209. A lot of individuals are so bent to get DSLRs and stuff like that. That's great. But the testament here is that we can confidently say, if you look at the videos that we put out from E3, that was done through a phone. So if it was done through a phone and an audio adapter and some microphones, you can easily do that for yourself. So the message for me now is you don't need a lot of stuff to produce awesome things, right? You just need to respect the individuals that you're speaking with, and then dope moments happen, right? Yeah. So there's that. So Journey 4 is as it relates to Daniela as my partner and my co-host, that was an amazing thing. She came on the podcast at 340, and she's been on ever since, to give her everything that I have, whatever that is, to share anything that I believe will help her as a content creator on the audio side, because she was already doing Twitch 6 or 7 years prior to, before we got together. So giving her and trying to, quote unquote, because she believes that I'm her mentor. So I have to make sure that everything that I'm learning, I make sure she gets that, right? Whether she stays or leaves, it doesn't matter, because we've already had that conversation. So I think that forging relationships in that way is my, I guess, my ongoing thing, my daily bread, if you will. And I'm just looking forward to building great content with people through video. And I think that is more impactful than anything that I've done in the last couple of months, really.
Before I take you back, because I want to go both sides on this, but you mentioned something that I want to scratch at a little bit more. You mentioned like your mentor to your co-host, Daniela. But how important is that mentor role for you beyond that? Because I think a lot of people listening to you talk and how you document this all might be looking up to you in a way as a content creator now. How important is that for you? Like, what kind of lessons would you put out there if you put any effort into it all? Because it is quite a task to be an unwilling mentor sometimes.
Yeah. So I struggled with it when we first got together. So I think the first 100 episodes that we started recording, I was trying to figure out who she was, because when she came on, I was still learning her personality and what made her laugh, what made her upset, and those things. Once I got past the first, I would say 50 to 100 episodes, and that was my data gathering process to learn how she was, then it was easier for me to pour anything that I wanted to pour into her. And I was, I'm kind of glad it worked out the way it did, because I didn't want her to be with anybody else. So there was a selfish thing in there somewhere, because I wanted her to have her first experience with me as a podcast content creator, because I've heard horror stories from other places because people talk, right? So I didn't want her to have any experience like that when she came on to the thing. So I think that long term, as it relates to, I just want to be honest with her, right? And I think that has forged our relationship super fast. And the last, I would say, year and a half, 2 years and stuff like that. Because she, when she first went to E3 as with the Gamer Pass, she was with me through the press stuff. So she was watching how I interacted with the people in that scene versus how we interact. And there's a switch. Something happens, right? Because we didn't just get here by accident. Someone approved that thing for us to get there, right?
Yeah.
So now that we're here, I go into a different gear, and she was able to see that. And I think that just really being authentic with her, even when we have challenges, or when I have challenges personally, I share that with her, or whether it's with my daughter or my wife or anything like that. Be like, yo, this week, not a good week, you know, and it's my fault, blah, blah, blah. So I think that has forged us with family first and all those things. And I think that I wouldn't say it's a blueprint, but I think it's a very simple way to build with people if you're honest, right? It's not about games, right? Because we always have that.
Yeah.
We always have that. My thing is, are you good? Are we good? I've checked in with her during the Me Too stuff.
Yeah.
Yo, did I Me Too you at all?
Yeah.
I said something crazy and that, you know, thank God, no, but you got to check in. You got to have, and sometimes I have those meetings on the show because I'm like, yo, we need to talk about this. You know, that I know that it's recorded for our purpose if we decide to revisit it, but these things need to be set in place. Yeah. So I'm concerned about depth right now. Yeah. Not so much width, because the numbers will come, the people will come, because you can have, even as Twitch has shown us, you can have thousands of people following you, but if you only have like 4 or 5 concurrents, don't mean nothing, right? It means a little something, but not what you think you'd want to mean with 75 plus concurrents, right? You know, that kind of thing. So I'm more concerned with depth right now in the long term, whether that's with you or Daniela or any other individual that comes into the thing that we call gaming, right? That this particular industry. And the other thing too, as I've been sharing lately, as I'm thinking about it, is you have to be mindful of who's with you in the valley and the mountaintop. Because if the people only show up in the mountaintop to high five you, you should have some questions. But if they're always in the valley and the mountaintop, those are the individuals that will become your lifers. So that's what you're looking for. And I think that I'm looking for lifers now. I don't have time for the nonsense.
No. That's great. I love that expression that you just casually throw out there. I might refer to that, but I'll credit you. I'm not Elon Musk. But now I'm ready to grasp back a little bit, because if this was your last episode, this was your last appearance, but someone asks you, okay, out of your entire career, what would be the one thing that you would like to highlight and say, like, this is what you should remember me by? Do you have like an episode or a conversation that you've had on the show that's like that you're really proud of, that stands the tooth of time?
I'm proud of the fact that I'm more honest now than I've ever been with who I am, and I've lost some people because of that, right? Because when people see our content, they see segments of us, right? And then they begin to have a parasocial relationship with us, and thinking that relationship is real because they see us or they hear us and they listen to us on a regular basis. But then you meet me, then you meet the other segment that you rarely see, because there is a presentation, there is a vibe, there is an energy, there is a cadence that goes with recording the content that we record. But when we're not on, then there's some conversations that we may have that you may not be ready for, because you're so used to me saying, hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of blah, blah, blah. Right? So I think what I'm learning now that's way more important, even just daily living, is just be kind to people, man. Yeah. Be kind. Be honest with yourself, but be kind to the people that you're running into. And I think that that can really go a long way. Yeah.
It's funny because every time we talk, I find a new thread to pull. So sorry if this is going all over the place.
No, it's good, man. Let's talk, man.
Because when you mention it, like, people see segments of us, like that is you as a content creator, and I fully agree that it's very easy for listeners or viewers to see you as that is who you are, even though it's like you said, you're on, you're creating. Have you had that same experience with the people you have now met in the industry, now that they are your peers and your equals? Did you have to get used to that? Because like I watched a lot of content creators before I got in the industry myself, and now I'm like having a beer with those people, and I'm like, oh yeah, you are not the person that I've only seen perform, basically, because it's, you know, you can be genuine, but it's still performance, right? You put on the voice, and how did you get used to that, or was that easier for you?
I think most of the individuals that I've met the last couple of years that have been long-term friends have been pretty close to their authentic self when I met them. Yeah. Even when they're on. Yeah. Which is great, which is a relief. I had one person ask me, when you met me, was it what you were expecting?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was a weird question, because I was in a comedic improv mode when that question was asked. I was like, should I even care? So I had other answers I could have given at that time, because sometimes I could be that edgy. But I was like, no, you're cool, man. You're cool. And I think that most of the individuals are really trying their best to create content that just, speaks to the masses and influence and inspire the masses.
Yeah.
So they've been pretty close. I'm thinking, yeah, they've been pretty close.
Yeah.
I'll say that. Yeah.
I feel like there was one that was completely off. Is there any fun stories you have there that can be lighthearted, or like you're absolutely not who I thought you were?
The 1%. Well, I mean, you have the cocky individuals that you meet, the one-offs, if you will.
Yeah.
But my thing is, okay, you got something happened for you to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I misread, in their defense, maybe I misread them being cocky and overconfident because I wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
Because of my insecurities, right? So sometimes it's not the person. The person can be on like, cloud 10 doing their thing, right? But because I'm not there yet and I'm still learning what the vibe is like, from going from just attending your PAXs to the E3s, there's a different gap.
Yeah.
There's a different hustle, right? So not understanding what that hustle is, it's easy to judge it, right? Whether it's a person or a particular platform that they're at now that you're not yet, or whatever. So I had to really give a little bit more grace to that, right? Because I'm like, yo, this dude is a prick, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know why he's a prick, right?
Yeah.
But and sometimes when I've met them, that energy that they've given is because you gotta grind no matter what's going on. You may not like me, but I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that energy, you respect it after you speak to that person, male or female, whatever. Right. And I think that most times you just have to give a lot of grace.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of relationships during these conventions are very fleeting, right? Because with some people you get 2-3 minutes a year, and if you just catch them in on a bad day or in a bad hour, you can walk away from a convention and think about that people like trash for a year, and then the next time you meet, like, oh, well, that's a completely different experience.
Right.
And I think that's always to keep in mind. I think if you're listening and you're going to E3, because now it's pretty open for everybody, and you see these content creators. Everybody's always busy. Everybody's stressed out. So if you ever had a bad experience with someone you've looked up to as a content creator and you did not have a great experience, it could really be just 5 bad minutes that you caught someone at. So don't let that discourage you, because most of the people I have met are all like wonderful people, and I think that's what makes this industry so interesting and so much fun to be in, because I really feel that, like you said, it's a tight-knit group, but once you get your foot in there, there's a lot of love, you said, and a lot of joy, and everybody loves what we're doing. What is, like, you kind of touched on it, like that your biggest lesson was be kind, but is there anything that you feel like you've put into the world that make you feel like, okay, I'm leaving this place a better place than I found it? Doesn't have to be like your show. It can be like anything in life or family or whatever it is that you really feel like, okay, this is my one thing that turned it up just a knot better than it was.
I think there's enough content to put the pieces together, as we were talking about before. I think that there's enough timeline there to see where I failed a lot, right? And I think the thing that individuals want to run away from is the failure that comes with putting out a podcast or a particular piece of content that, hey, is someone going to watch that? Especially when it has 0 views for a couple of weeks and you're like, why is nobody paying attention to that? Then learning the ropes of how that content, the science of quote unquote social media, and how you can, benefit from that. I think that the failures that we talk about on the show, I'm happy with, right? Because I want individuals to learn from that. It doesn't have to be a hard thing for them as it relates to creating a piece of content. To me, it's very easy because there's enough free tools that can get you started, that you can lap a whole bunch of individuals that you believe are doing great. And I think that we, at this point, Danielle and I want to give that information freely. I was having a conversation with my father-in-law, and he was like, dude, you can't give out all your secrets. I was like, they're not secrets. They're really not secrets. It's just that people package things differently. And my thing is, why don't I just tell you? Because there's only 2% that's going to take advantage of it, and I want you to be that 2%. That's the hope. I want you to be that 2%, not the 98. That's why we want you to go and be awesome. Go do that, right? Because we have already failed. We're looking at a set of mics right now, as we were talking about the things before, with where do we see each other, content production, different things like that. There are wireless versions of what we currently have on the mobile field production stuff. Once we make that work and it's flawless, we're going to share that information. Like, dude, you get these 2 wireless mics, rechargeable stuff. It comes with a rechargeable receiver. It comes with all the pieces, and you can connect it to your phone on a field for about $70, and it works. Fam, come on, go be awesome. We're showing you that these things, it doesn't take a lot to be dope. And if you have a YouTube channel that you haven't touched, just learn. If you put a couple of words of a hot topic right now, YouTube tells you what people are searching for, and a list right on the bottom of what you started typing. So take advantage of those things.
No, that's awesome. I love that mindset of trying to reach that 2%, and because I think the more, I don't want to misuse the word wholesome, but the more good content creators we are, I think we can shift the industry into a slightly better direction. So I really appreciate it, and I'm definitely going to see what your field setup is, because I'm quite interested in that. So I will be listening to that piece of advice.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up, I wanted to personally thank you for something, because when I was on your episode, I was 9 episodes in, I think, and you are the person that told me, saying that most content creators give up after or around episode 7. And that is something I kept in mind with every episode after my episode 7. And I didn't know you that well back then, but that was a piece of advice that you gave me early on that I've held on to, and I've quoted often on this episode. So your influence on my show is already there, and I just love hearing how you put it out, like about the 2%. So I'm honored to be part of that 2%.
Absolutely, man.
In your influence. So that was just great to hear you talk about that, because I'm now episode 58. I've been doing this for over a year.
Yeah, congrats, man. You're doing it, man.
Yeah,
you're doing it.
And I'm glad. And like you said, like even if I look at my last episode, I'm like, ooh, they could have done better. And that's why I always open the show with the number and the best episode yet, because we grow as content creators, and it makes the guests feel good, right? So that's
yeah, it does.
But this was I'm having such a good time with this conversation. I wish it could last forever, but it won't, because I have an hour limit for myself. Before we round up, I always end my podcast on something I call Podcast and Shill, where I would love for you to plug something and let me know where, and the listeners and the viewers, where can we find you, and how can we discover more of your content?
Okay, so whatever I want to plug?
Yeah, but first, let's see where we can find you and your content, and then you can plug either an episode or someone else or whatever you want.
Okay, so I'll say this. I want listeners to listen to you.
Okay.
Because you've been really, really dope. Oh. So I'm going to take a few seconds to say that I've watched you and the relationships you've built in such a short amount of time, based on my perception. I'll say that. And it's incredible watching you move through the floor and just do your thing digitally, if you will. So I think that individuals that are listening to your show should pay more attention to the guests that you're bringing on. Not me. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about guests past and future. Not me. Okay. And you've been doing such an amazing thing. And I'm watching, man, and I appreciate that. Okay. So I'll say that. That's the first thing. Okay. For me, right now, I think Uriah, Uriyya. My Twitter is my main hub for most of my stuff. And anything I post, whether it's going live on Twitch or streamerlinks.com/Uriah, that's another one that has all my links and stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Any specific piece of content you want to plug? Like you already had something go viral, so I'm not sure if you want to push that out even further, or is there anything you're super proud of? You're like, okay, go watch that right now.
Yeah. Okay. So the tweet that went viral, that's pinned on my Twitter, URIYYA. So definitely check that out. And a lot of the pieces of content that I post that are media related on Twitter links directly to that YouTube piece.
Okay.
And so just use the free tools. Also Audacity, KDEN Live is a free video editor. X8500 mics, they're $20. They sound amazing. Yeah. They're XLR. There's also Samsung Q2U, which is a great XLR USB mic. Just use the tools that are out there.
Awesome. That is, you're such a helpful person, making everyone's shows better. Everyone who's listening here. Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really had a good time, and I know it's if you're listening, I think it's a more serious conversation that I've had in a while, but I really, really appreciate digging into and allowing me to pick your brain and talk about some topics that are not easy always to talk about for me or for you, and I really appreciate how candid you are about those things as well, and allowing me to bluster my way through some topics that I don't always know anything about, but I still want to talk about because I'm learning. That is absolutely fantastic, and you're a fantastic person as well. So
thank you, man.
Again, thank you so much for coming on the show. And if you're still listening to me trying to close my show by now, I can't, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I am the Hashtagonist, and this is the Hashcast, and this was another episode with another fantastic guest. And hopefully you'll tune back in next week.